The views expressed on this program are not the views expressed on this program are not those of IntellectualRadio.com, its subsidiaries, or sponsors. Encouraging, educating, and empowering you into action. This is Warriors Talk with your host, Lady Rochelle.
Hello. Welcome to Warriors Talk with author and founder Lady Rochelle, where we move away from awareness towards action. It is Health and Wellness Monday, and our topic for today is self-care for caregivers. We are live on Intellectual Radio. We just heard from the Drive at 5 with Roman. Keep it locked right here on Intellectual Radio and allow us to feed your brain. On the last episode of Warriors Talk, I spoke with Gaynell Wright, and we talked about keeping the faith through a breast cancer diagnosis. Go over to YouTube, type in Intellectual Radio, stay connected for any episodes you may have missed. The quote of the day is, life challenges are not supposed to paralyze you. They are supposed to give you ways to discover yourself. We are grateful for our sponsors. We have Gloria Dotson with Mary Kay, and she is catering to all of your beauty needs from head to toe. We have Allstate with Paula Kelly. She's fulfilling all of your insurance needs in one place. We have affordable book editing services with Mylea Marks, without book editing services without skimping on quality. And then we have Emmanuel Church of God in Christ with Pastor Michael Richardson, who gives you your spiritual food every Sunday morning at 10:15 a.m. via Facebook. And you can head on over there and let's just hear a word from our sponsors.
Greetings, I am Pastor Michael Richardson.
And I am First Lady Anastasia Richardson from the Emmanuel Church of God in Christ. We're located at 3058 West Van Buren in Chicago, Illinois. We are building upon a solid foundation.
We're inviting you to join us every Sunday morning on Facebook Live at Emmanuel Kojic at 10:15 Central Standard Time. And you can also view our videos on our YouTube channel at Emmanuel Kojic-MR. Once again, this is Pastor Michael Richardson
and First Lady Anastasia Richardson, and we're from the Emmanuel Church of God in Christ. We are building upon a solid foundation.
All right, we are grateful for our sponsors. Let's go to our trending topics. And the trending topics are Christia Donaldson, who is the founder of TGIN, Thank God It's Natural Hair Care Products. She passed away at the age of 42 on yesterday. At the age of 35, Christia was diagnosed with cancer in 2015, and she actually caught the breast cancer early, and she was confident in beating it. She was also diagnosed in 2018. And with this second go around, she had a rough time, but she got through it with chemotherapy. And since that time, she has dedicated her life to motivating cancer patients, in addition to involving herself in different charities, as well as the cancer community. So we are praying for her family and also the entire TGIN family. If you are tuned in on any form of social media, please like, share the show, invite someone else in on the show that may benefit from this valuable information. My special guest is our returning healthy solution expert with over 20 years experience as a family physician, and she is impacting lives every day. Hey, Doc Michelle.
Hello, Lady Rochelle. How are you? Can you hear me clearly?
Yes, loud and clear.
Awesome.
So I'm so excited.
How are you today?
I'm doing good. I'm excited that the snow did not stick. So I'm not ready.
So I know, right? It's coming. I'm getting my mind right for it. So
I'm just not ready yet. Yeah, but we know, this is how we do around this time of the year. So might as well just get ready. Yes. As I was saying, I'm excited about this topic because I know that it's a much needed topic, and it seems like this topic does not get enough, should I say, airplay. We don't talk about it enough, but we know that a lot of people may be in this situation and do not know what to do and feel like, all hope has lost. So we're going to talk about this topic so that maybe we can help individuals and we can share some light on it so that they know that they're not alone, number one, and that there is a light at the end of the tunnel. So our topic again today is self-care for caregivers. So Dr. Michelle, I know
Yes.
this topic is near and dear to your heart as well.
Yes, yes, it is. And thank you for having me on and having us talk about this topic, because before I tell you about my story, this is so important, especially over the last 18 months, almost 2 years now, where people who didn't think they would need to be caregivers are thrown just into that situation without a lot of preparation, which kind of leads to my situation. So I think we've talked before, but in 2013, my mother actually had to have emergency open heart surgery. And if you know my mother, she has been an independent, she was 79 in 2013, worked her whole life, I think 29 years at Sears. She retired only to go back to work like a year later, working
Wow.
for the government, sort of verifying paperwork and stuff for immigration. So she was working, working, working. And 2013, I noticed that she just wasn't as active. Her brother had come to visit her. They went to Navy Pier and she couldn't walk very far. They had to sit a lot. And she was complaining more and more about heartburn symptoms, not really chest pressure, which is a whole nother talk about chest pain and heart disease in women. We can do that another day. But she couldn't really walk. So I did what I know to do, took her to the cardiologist. She had a stress test, which was abnormal. So we went for the cardiac cath, where they go through the groin and they put dye in, they look at what arteries of the heart may be blocked. So I remember clearly I dropped her off, said, I'll be back. Or I think my husband was going to go back and pick her up and just figure everything was going to be okay. But in the middle of my busy work day, seeing patients, I get a call from the hospital. The cardiologist is talking to me. He's like, your mom has to go to surgery today. She has a 99% blockage of the main artery of her heart called the widowmaker for good reason. And she could drop at any moment. And I was like, okay, because I know what all that means. And my mother, being the stubborn woman she is, she's like, they put her on the phone. She's like, I don't want to have surgery. I'm like, Mom, give me the phone. You're having surgery. So she had surgery. Everything went well, thank goodness. She had some complications from that, but was able to recover, which started my journey as a caregiver, because initially after her hospitalization, she moved in with us temporarily. At that time, again, I'm a busy working wife. I've got an 8 and a 10-year-old. I'm, doing what I need to do. And I'm now in the caregiver role, taking care of everything that she is not able to do. And so it's, I say that to say it happens to a lot of people where you're thrust into the role of taking care of someone that you love. And being a family caregiver can be difficult. It was an adjustment for all of us because my mother has always lived by herself. So it was an adjustment for her to be in that situation. So sometimes as caregivers, we also have to think about what's the other person going through, right? Because it's usually an adjustment for them as well, and a transition in their lives, which can make it very difficult with communication with them sometimes. So it was an adjustment for her, an adjustment for us, living together and so forth. But luckily, I think she lived with us for maybe 4 years and then was able to move out on her own. But still, I am taking care of her. My mother is now 87.
Wow.
She lives by herself,
Mm-hmm.
right down the street, not far. So I've still taken care of everything for her, making sure she gets to her doctor's appointments and the groceries, and making sure where her condo is clean and all of those things, in the midst of living my life and taking care of family as well.
Well, that sounds like a lot. But it seems like you want to be able to have someone around them that you trust, especially when they're up in age. You want them to have the best care possible. And sometimes that best care is you. It's family,
Right.
So
Yes.
if you're able to do it, for as long as you can, I say do it.
Yeah, and most people want to do it. I mean, there's a lot of reasons why people do it, right? It's your family member, and it's more cost effective than having to put them in nursing home or even assisted living. There's lots of financial things with that too. So, and as people get older, if it's an older person, they want to be in their own home. We know now, I mean, the average person, and some 2019 statistics, the average age back then of the person who was receiving caregiving was around 69 or so. And the average caregiver was 49, but it's probably much younger. And most caregivers are female. We're the nurturers, we take care of people. But I think when the new statistics come around for 2020, 2021, we'll find that caregivers are much younger than we traditionally think. And we want to be able to do that. And when they're younger, they're also working. They also have families. They're trying to, we're almost that sandwich generation, right? We're raising kids and we're also taking care of parents and loved ones.
Wow. Hey, Lisa, thank you for tuning in. We're talking
Hello.
about self-care for caregivers, and we all either are in that position or we know someone who's in that position. So you were talking about some statistics, Doc, and this is from AARP. It says approximately 43.5 million caregivers have provided unpaid care to adults or children in the last 12 months. I don't think we really talk about, I mean, you don't really expect
Right.
to get paid for taking care of family, but some
Right.
people may have to quit their jobs because they
Yeah.
may not be able to afford, like you said, afford those different type of assisted living facilities, or they may quit their jobs because they want to be the main one to do it. And it's
Yeah.
impossible sometimes to handle both and still have,
Yeah.
the energy to take care of yourself. It's a lot.
Yeah, a third of people who are caregivers sometimes have to quit their job because they can't do both, or at least cut back on hours in order to do the role, depending on if the person lives with them or commuting, to take care of someone. So it really is not only a time strain, but it's also a financial strain, even though it is cheaper if you have to make those adjustments like we talked about. Absolutely. And it can be overwhelming, and it's a lot. And the thing that I learned over the last 8 years of being a caregiver is you're not alone. You're not the only one that has to be a caregiver. Because if you think about it, you said 43.5 million caregivers, right? So you probably know someone, and we all need to just talk about it, support each other, talk about when you get, stressed and feel guilty. One of the things that I learned about being a caregiver is you can feel guilt if you are taking time away to take care of yourself. We talk about self-care, right? And it's important that we recognize that it's okay to schedule time for you, and think about what it is that relieves your stress, that you want to do in your free time, and you have to make it a priority for self-care when you're sort of stretched in all those directions.
I agree. You need that time to recharge, right? Because I always
Yeah.
go back to when you're on the plane and they're giving you those instructions, and they say, when that thing drop down, put that on your face
Oh,
first. So you have to help yourself first before you can help anybody else. And if you're not
yeah,
well, then how are you going to help somebody else? You need to be sharp. Your mind
yeah,
needs to be sharp. You need to, so that you can make those decisions. They're trusting you to make those decisions on behalf of them. Lisa said you are an important piece of the puzzle. Absolutely.
yeah, yeah. You have to
Absolutely.
take care of yourself, and you're
Yeah.
absolutely right. You have to do that for yourself first, so that when you are in your caregiver role, you feel better because you've taken care of yourself as well, right? You can feel like, oh, I didn't sacrifice. I went to exercise. I went to get my nails done. I went to hang out with my friends. So I'm here with you now, right? This is our
Right. Right.
time to do what we're going to do, and I need my time to do other things too. Very important.
And I think some people will say they may feel like they're being selfish, and it's like, in a
Yeah,
way you are, but if it's for a good cause, because again, you want to be refreshed, you want to be in tip top shape when you're taking care of that person, especially like you don't want to go around depending on what they're dealing with. You don't want to go around them with the cold, and then you're transferring germs over to them. So you want to make sure that you're right. I mean, I don't
yeah,
even like being a mother, because we're just natural caregivers. That's just my opinion. And it's like, in order to care for your children, you have to be able to. My time is my nails and my toes. So give me that, and then I can function, I could be okay. But I need something, I need my little
yes.
time away, and you don't need to go with me everywhere that I'm going. Like,
Hmm.
So,
Hmm. Yeah, yeah, that's very important. That emotional health is very important. Even if you need, there's something called respite care,
yes.
right? Respite care where you can get, and most insurances, especially Medicare, things like that, will cover respite hours. So you can have someone could either come into your home to spend some time with that person to give you some time. Sometimes they can go to a facility if you need to go on vacation for 5 days, depending on what your insurance covers. Some of them will cover that respite care, and we don't really think about that, but that is a way if you need that to get your own self care.
I think sometimes people feel like if I leave them by themselves and something happened, then that guilt. That's part of
Right,
that guilt
right.
process. Like,
Yeah, 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 yeah. No, because no one can take care of our family members like we
we
can,
can,
right?
right, right.
So that is and that also goes to getting your village around and asking for help, right? I talk to patients about that too when they're caregivers, that you don't have to do it all yourself, which sometimes we think we have to do that. But if there's other family that can pitch in, again, that respite care is important so that you have that time, and it's good for the person to have other people around to support them.
That's a good point, because it said that sometimes they withdraw from other people, from their friends and family, and sometimes they feel isolated, and not because people maybe have withdrawn from them, but they feel like, don't nobody want to be around me. I'm doing all this stuff by myself, so they kind of like feel like they don't have the support and they withdraw. So you
Right.
need that. I agree. You need that village. You need that support. If not just for you
Hmm.
to, recharge, and so you can give the best care possible to the person that you're taking care of.
Absolutely, absolutely. And part of that is, like we said, having your support system, exercising. We always talk about eating a balanced diet, right? Sometimes we're on the go, right? Because you might be running from your job to now do your caregiving duties, and you're sort of eating in the car, not the best foods. But we know that when you eat a healthy sort of plant-based diet, it gives you the good nutrients, the vitamins and minerals your body needs. We talk about antioxidants, which give fruits and vegetables their color, which is great for giving our body the tools it needs to function. So you feel um, more level, more balanced, less stress. So A balanced diet is important. And we always talk about that when I'm on your show, right? A lot of things we go
Yeah.
through can be helped by eating the right foods.
I think we underestimate the food and the exercise part of our overall well-being. It's just like, sometimes we put it off thinking like, I'll get to it tomorrow. Or I've heard people say, oh, I'll just pray over my food, even though it's like it's bad food that they're eating. They'll just pray over it and it'll be okay. It's like, no.
No, we got to start with the right choice.
Yes.
Yes.
Get one temple.
And
one temple.
One temple, you got to take care of it. And one thing I wanted to mention about food, of course, again, when you're working and being a caregiver, sometimes it's hard to cook, right? It's hard to prepare the meals. So you might want to get in a structure of either preparing meals on Sundays, freezing things, or there's a lot of meal delivery programs. Sometimes they may be covered by insurance. It sort of depends. There's one called Mom's Meals that I know can be covered by insurance. So think about all those things. If you have questions, if you're a caregiver, and you have questions about what the insurance covers, call, benefits and really get a clear understanding of what's available to you, so you use all your resources.
Yes. I wanted to go back really quick because you did mention this about the females being, we the majority of the caregivers. So it says 75% of all caregivers are female, and they may spend as much as 50% more time providing care than males. And as far as males, 14.5 million caregivers are males, and that's out of that 43.4. That's a big gap, but I kind of understand it.
And we traditionally are the caretakers, right? We fall into that role, right? We fall into that role, and that's okay, right? Males and females have, traditionally different traditional roles. We tend to be the caretaker, caregiver, nurturer, all of those things, and we like doing that. It makes us feel good, right? But in that, we still have to recognize that there can be a lot of stress that's associated with it. And there are support groups out there. There's a website called caregiver.org where you can find resources in your community, online resources, tips for taking care of yourself as a caregiver as well. So if you've been thrown into that role, especially with COVID and all of that going on, yes, please use those resources to find time for yourself and do those things that you enjoy to relieve your stress.
Okay, so we talked about guilt, we talked about support, and we talked about eating and exercising, how important it is to get moving. What about setting limits for yourself when it comes to being a caregiver?
Yeah, you have to recognize that sometimes it can be overwhelming, and especially if you're someone who, if that caregiver lives with you and you feel like you have to do everything all the time, all day, you can set limits and say, even something simple like, I can't do that today, but I can do that for you on Saturday, right? Or I can do that, because if you always say yes to everything, then you will be overwhelmed, and one little thing will be the straw that broke the camel's back, right? If you're stretched so thin. So setting limits with what you're able to do, what you're willing to do, is okay. And for the person that you're caregiving, something that worked for me really well is, because my mother doesn't live with me, is having structured sort of time where she knows I'm coming over to do what I'm going to do, right? That's usually Saturday afternoon. We hang out, I do the shopping, we watch TV and do all those things. So you want to have some structure and set limits on what you are able to do and what you can't do, and be okay with it. Whatever your choice is, be okay with it and don't feel guilty about it.
I totally agree with that. How do you feel about the education portion of it when it comes to being a caregiver? Because, I think some people just get thrown into that role and they really don't get the education behind it on how to deal with them, how to be patient. And especially if you're dealing with someone when it comes to dementia, the different illnesses. I mean, you got to really be educated on it in order to not really be upset and take things out on them because they're doing stuff over and over. So what
Yeah.
about that education piece when it comes to
Yes.
caregivers?
Yes, that's very important, and that's where you have to use your resources, your support groups. For people who are going through it with you, talk to your provider about what to expect from a dementia perspective and from like a physical perspective. Let's say someone's coming home if they've been in the hospital and now they have a G tube and they need drips and IV antibiotics. And there are things there's so much more we learned over the last 18 months that we can do at home, that we don't need to be necessarily in a hospital for, or even, a long-term care facility or anything. So we need that piece of education, right? So make sure, so you don't feel overwhelmed, that you ask about, okay, how do I take care of the tube, the dressing, things like that. Make sure you have all the supplies. And then for things on the other aspect that are behavioral, like Alzheimer's or dementia, yes, that can be very frustrating, right? Because sometimes they say things, they'll do things, and they'll say things without a filter that might be hurtful, right? But you have to know that that's the disease. So that's the education piece. That's the education piece. So you know what to expect, because the unexpected can be very stressful. And we may think we know, but we may not. Like for dementia patients, we know that in the evening time, right, they sundown. They might wander, they may get more agitated when the sun goes down, right? So you want to be sure that you are expecting that and have a calm environment for them, that you are aware of that. Some people, I've had patients who've had to make sure all the doors are locked and, cabinets are locked and things like that, because sometimes they tend to be up and wandering at night. So all of those things, if you can expect it, then it shouldn't hopefully be as stressful and disruptive to your life.
I was just looking at it was saying that more caregivers are needed. It says as the number of older Americans increases, so will the number of caregivers needed to provide care. It says the number of people 65 years and older are expected to double between, they said 2000 to 2030. And it is expected that there will be 71 million people aged 65 years or older when all of the baby boomers, retire by 2030, will need that care.
Yes. Yeah. 1 in 5 adults by 2030 will be over 65. So, yeah, we have to think about that, because, again, it's going to overwhelm the system that's already overwhelmed, right? Those caregiving facilities are already stretched, especially in the time of COVID. And so this is a good place to mention that you sometimes have to look at your insurance as you get older to make sure to see what type of benefits does it offer for caregiving, for elder care, so that, especially this is time of enrollment, funny, I should say that, but it's a good time to look at what your benefits are, because they may need to be adjusted as you get older or the person that you're caregiving gets older.
Yes. I was just talking to my mom about that. She was talking about getting cataract surgery. Right. And so she was like, well, the doctor said that he could do it manually or I could get it laser. I'm like, get it laser. Like, don't do it manually.
Right.
Just get it laser.
Right.
She was like, it's going to be $2,000. I'm like, you have insurance. She was like, yeah, but it's not going to cover it. I'm like, what kind of insurance do you have, Mom? That is not, that you have to pay $2,000. Yeah. I'm like, somebody needs to like sit down with her, look at the insurance that she has And because she's saying that they're telling her that she has the best one for, I'm like, it doesn't sound like it, because if you're coming out of your pocket, I can see the copay. That's like $2,000 you paying for the surgery.
Yeah.
I get that.
Yeah. So that's right. Because as you're aging, your insurance needs change, right? Because if I'm 20 something, I'm going to look for a plan that covers lots of outpatient care and preventative medicines and maybe birth control and things like that, right? But now if I'm 50, 60, 70, I need an insurance plan that's going to cover more inpatient things in case I get sick, my medications. I'm going to make sure that it has things like vision, right? Hearing aids. I mean, that's we're sort of off topic, but yeah, as you get older, your insurance needs change. And, if you're 25, you're not thinking about whether your insurance covers hearing aids. But when you're 50, 60, 70, those are the type of things you want to be cognizant to make sure your insurance covers.
No, I totally agree. I mean, she's going to the doctor for her eyes. They even talked to her about she's a diabetic, with the little diabetic shoes, like all of that is included in there. But I'm just like, some of the things that she talked about with the insurance, I'm like, man, you shouldn't be paying for that. Like that doesn't seem like I'm gonna have to look at her insurance. I mean, I don't know about the insurance, as far as what she needs, but I'm just like, you should not be coming out of your pocket with a lot of money for something doesn't sound right. So at least if I can look at all of the insurance plans and kind of like, see which one really is the best for her financially too, and to make sure that she gets all of those preventable maintenance care that she needs. Yeah.
Right. And you'll have to find someone, because sometimes the person who is selling the insurance might not be the most unbiased person to get the information from.
That's true.
So that's where, as a caregiver, we have to go through that information, read the book, and see what's the best option.
Yes. And I know sometimes they have these classes, like you said, it's open enrollment right now. So sometimes they have these classes for seniors to, come and so they can explain it to them. And these are people that are not biased, so that they'll know what's the best plan to pick. So I may have to go and sit in one of those classes with her just so we both can understand, and she can walk away and not have to stress at 76 about, insurance. Like, no, when you get to this age, you should not have to be worried about that. So, Lisa said,
and that's an important part.
It really is. Lisa Adams said that she used to take care of her grandfather who had, is it Alzheimer's?
Alzheimer's.
It is Alzheimer's. I always get
not Alzheimer's. Okay, it's
Alzheimer's.
Alzheimer's.
I hope I said that right. She said it was challenging. It was I know it has to be.
Yes, I have a aunt who has dementia, and it's very difficult on her daughter because her aunt at this stage doesn't. My aunt, her mother, doesn't recognize her at all, and at some point she had to put her in a nursing home. But it's difficult. It's difficult, and it's hard for us to see them go through that. And the things we already talked about with the wandering, the change in behavior, the saying things, that is just part of the disease. And we can't take it personally.
Wow.
Hi, Kimmy.
Hey, Kimmy. Rosal says caregivers go through so much. It seems like
it's hard to balance.
Especially with everything that's going on in your life. Like you said, because you work, you're a mother, you're a wife, and it's like you don't want your mom to feel like, she's neglected me and she don't want to spend any time with me. And it's like, no, I'm at work. So you have to you have to purposely carve that time out, and like you said, be consistent with it so that she's expecting the time, she's looking forward to it, and it's just like, you just have to make that time meaningful. And it's not about the quantity of time, but it's that quality that you spend with that person. So just make sure when you're with your person that you're not distracted, you're not on your phone, you're not doing other
Right.
things, but you're really catering
Yes.
to their needs for the time that you are with
Yes.
them, because they're going to be looking forward to it. They're going to be, they'll talk to their friends and, yeah, my daughter Michelle came over, we went to the grocery
Oh
store,
yeah.
and she comes
All
over every,
right.
they look forward to that. They
Don't let me
like
get the
that.
grandkids over there. That
Oh,
makes her
Lord.
day too.
See,
So,
yeah.
right.
So we have to
Hmm.
make sure that because you just don't know. Like you said, you don't know when you may be in that role. You have no idea if you're going to be in that role. Like I look at my mom, my sister who was 52 when she passed from breast cancer, and my mom was her caregiver, right? She was also a diabetic. She was a type 1 diabetic, and
Hmm.
she was blind. My mom
Mm,
was there. She lived with my mom. My mom
mm,
took care of her, did everything for her. And then my sister
mm,
passed a couple years after that. Now here's my dad with lung cancer, and my mom is there
mm.
taking care of him. So she done was the caregiver for two people just there. And
God bless her.
yes, like, and I remember before my sister passed, somebody had paid for her a trip to go on a cruise, and she felt so guilty. She was like,
Mm,
I don't know if I want to go because, what if she, and the doctor had already told us that, it's a matter of time before she passes. And she's like, I don't want to go. And, she passed and I'm gone. I'm on a trip. And it's like, Ma, they already said it's going to happen, whether you're here or not. Just go and enjoy yourself. You have
yeah.
taken care of her all this time. You shouldn't feel guilt. Don't feel
Right.
guilty.
Right.
The rest of us are here, and we can be here and keep her busy and go see her, while you're there enjoying yourself. And she was able to get back, and my sister was still here, you know and
Good.
it's just so funny
Good.
how sometimes God allows us to, sometimes death is not always a shock. Like sometimes people just they die suddenly, and then sometimes God, he gives us time with people before they go, so we should be loving on them anyway, but he gives us
Right.
time to love on them and surround them. So my sister, like, we all surrounded her bed and just
Oh
let her
yeah.
know how much she was loved, and we was there for her to help kind of calm her fears. And
Yeah.
it was just an amazing thing that God gave us that time with her.
Yes.
So we just have people, and if we have to take time out to care for them, if we have to split the job with family members, just
Yes.
do
Yes.
do
Well,
what you have to
yeah, that's
do.
great that you were able to do that for your sister. That's great. But you're absolutely right. You touched on a couple of things, right? You touched on having the village to help take care of your sister. You touched on that guilt that we feel when we're out having fun and someone else may be suffering, right? But you've got to determine for yourself, right, what you can do, and when you do it, try to do it without feeling guilty. And it's hard, and then you touched on another thing about taking care of yourself allows you to be present when you're with that person, and that's very key too, because they'll sense that as well. So, indulge yourself, go on that cruise, get enough sleep. We didn't talk about sleep, and sleep is sometimes, as I always say, it's the first thing to go. Right? We pack more things in that busy day already, and you end up sleeping 4 hours or something, which then increases the stress hormones in your body. So that's something that's just going to happen if you're not getting good rest. At least 7 to 8 hours, you increase the adrenaline, and all of that happens without you having to do a thing. And then you get other problems from it. You feel more stressed. You get high blood pressure, all of these other things that will impact how you're able to take care of yourself and others.
Yes, I agree with Lisa. I know you do too, Doc Michelle. She said family involvement helps the situation and provides relief. And who doesn't
Yes.
need that relief? Like,
Yes,
yeah.
call on your village, call on your friends, family, and have that family meeting if you need to. Hey,
Yeah.
who can do this and who's able to do that? Sometimes you have people in the family with special skills, maybe somebody's in school to be an LPN and they can help, with certain things. So, um, that is an important part of self-care is like we said, involve others so you're not doing it all on your own, because the stress that you feel then will affect your own health, right? We talk about what does stress do to our bodies. And so it can, like I said, increase your cortisol levels, increase the adrenaline in your system, cause you to overeat and get high blood pressure, and then takes you down, another road. So it's important.
Kimmy said it takes an amazing person to be a caregiver. Make sure you give yourself time, lots of patience and peace. I agree.
Yes.
You need
awesome.
that me time. You do. Lisa said, God bless me with an awesome village.
Ooh, awesome. That is great. Yeah, some people don't have that village and they have to do it on their own, which goes back to the respite care that sometimes insurances cover, where you can have someone come in to help. Sometimes, depending on the situation, can they get home health care to give you a couple of hours, a homemaker, little things like that can help.
Yes. If you are just tuning in, this is Lady Rochelle with Warriors Talk on Intellectual Radio, and I'm speaking with Doc Michelle. She is our healthy solution expert, and we're talking about self-care as it relates to caregivers. We're going to take a quick break, and we're going to listen to our sponsor, which is Mylea Marks, and she's with Affordable Book Editing Services. She's giving you editorial services without skimping on quality.
If you're looking for an affordable book editor, then look no further. I'm Mylea Simone. I'm a freelance book editor, and I offer affordable book editing services such as proofreading and manuscript critiques. It's time to work with an editor who knows and loves stories. Head over to my website, www.myleasimone.com, to book me today.
My sponsors make it possible for me to go live week after week, so I appreciate them. Dr. Michelle, I wanted to talk about burnout. Like, what are some signs for, a caregiver to watch out for so that they won't burn themselves out?
Yeah, well, one sign that comes to mind is if you find that you're irritable easily. If you're easily irritable, irritated, you're probably getting burnt out. If you're not able to rest at night, or if you even find yourself feeling depressed, those are things that could signify that you're starting to feel burnt out. And it's important that if you are starting to feel that way, that you talk to someone. We talk about mental health all the time, that's really important. But that irritability sometimes, because you're doing for others, can be insidious. It might just sneak up on you and you don't realize it. And other people will recognize it. And that's important too, that if you are someone that is a friend of a caregiver, right? Give them some relief, right? If you're not the caregiver, but you know someone who is, recognize that they may not want to unburden on you. So offer help, offer to take them out for coffee, little things like that. You go to lunch, can help them, because as a caregiver, you sometimes will feel like you don't want to burden other people, right? You may not ask for help. So it's important for the rest of us to recognize those people who are caregivers and lend our services, our ears, and if you need help, to get help.
Yes, I remember, like I said, my mom normally would take care of my sister who was 52. So I was just off work that one day. I think it was a holiday. So I was like, Ma, I'll take her to her appointment. And I tell this story all the time. It just so happens to be her one and only chemo appointment that I went to. And I had a chance to sit there and watch her go through the chemo appointment, not knowing that I was going to be sitting there 3 years later in that same. So I think God is so strategic, so he just gave me a glimpse of what was happening. But, it gave me a chance to give my mom a break that day. So she had a break that day, and I was like, don't worry about it, I'll take her, and you could just have the day to yourself, because she really was, the main person, like day in and day out, fixing her meals, taking her to the doctor, like everything. So I knew it had to be stressful for her, but I never saw my mom complain. I never heard her complain, and she might have kept it to herself, but I never heard her, sound like she was irritable or just any of that. Like, I don't know.
Yeah.
She didn't let it show. So if she was,
Yeah.
then she might have kept it in, or maybe she didn't feel that way. So
Sure.
yeah.
Yeah. Everybody handles stress differently. As we talked about earlier, as women, we tend to be nurturers and caregivers, and we just roll with the punches, right? Um, so she may have done really well in that role. And that's good, that she has the strength to do that. And as you're seeing now, right, as she's getting older, your mom, she needs help as well. And again, in my regular day job, I work as a case management medical director too. And so when I'm talking to nurses, because we help support elderly people who need help at home as well, and a lot of people don't know what resources are available to them, either through their insurance or because of their income level. Right? You can qualify for a lot of resources, be it food delivery, be it a homemaker. So I go back to making sure that you're educated and know about what is available to you, so you don't have to do everything, right? I'm going to start using delivered meals for my mom. She still can cook, but I get worried about her cooking more, because she's told me a couple of times she's left something on and it burned. So I'm like, you don't need to cook all the time. Let me get delivered meals for you. So I'm going to look into see if that's covered by her insurance. And so those things, you never know. You think I'm going to have to pay for it, but maybe not. So yeah, educate yourself and turn that card over and call the customer service person.
Yes. Lisa said, I bet your mom expressed her concerns via prayer. Yes. That's my mom, Lisa, opposed
Yeah.
to complaining. That is totally my mom. And that's probably where she was able to get that peace and not, be outward about it. I totally agree. And that would be her number one thing to go to. So yeah. And that was her oldest child too. So, even when I was going through with my ordeal with cancer, like my mom was there. She was at every chemo appointment, and I always say she was there because she was making sure that I showed up. So she, so she was there because she was afraid I wasn't going to show up. So, it's just, I mean, and that's a mother's role. Like moms, we do a lot. We multitask, and we're able for some reason to do a lot. But what Doc Michelle and I are trying to convey is, even though you do a lot, don't neglect yourself in the process of you taking care of someone else. And if you feel like you're stressed out, you feel like you're about to be burnt out, you're irritated, then it's time for you to take a step back, take a rest, pull some other people in so that they can help you again, so that you can give that person the best care possible. Don't be afraid to be a little selfish for yourself in order to help somebody else. Lisa said, my mom and my family was there for me too. I mean, the village is something. You will be surprised what you can get through when you have that support behind you. So you don't, you may not have to use those, facilities to take care of your people if you can only pull in the village to help you, if you have that village. Ooh, that was a lot, Doc Michelle. Okay, so I wanted to it's good information. I wanted to really quick, and we probably only have time to do one or two, for the facts and the myths as it relates to caregiver. I was getting ready to say breast cancer because I'm always talking about breast cancer. So it says caregivers are middle-aged wives, mothers, or daughters. Fact or myth?
That's a myth, right? Because there are many caregivers that are younger. They could be between 18 to 40. And I think again, even now, I want to see more statistics on that with the advent of with COVID and how that has thrust even younger people, because we know that folks who were 30s and 40s and 50s were getting really, really sick from COVID.
Yeah.
And so if they have children or wives, they are now caregivers in some level. So a myth that it's just, older folks, it can be younger people as well.
I forgot about the COVID where the younger people were getting sick. Yeah, I forgot about that.
Yeah.
I forgot about that one. Another fact or myth is caregivers is done in addition to someone with a full-time job.
Yeah, well, we know a lot of caregivers are working their full-time job and caregiving. We know that some, I think I mentioned a third, sometimes have to quit their job depending on the level of service that's needed. But yeah, folks are working their full-time job, and after work, they're doing their caregiving activities, and then yet they still may have to take care of children and spouses and other things. So in reality, yes, folks are working and doing caregiving, but some people actually have to quit their jobs, which is unfortunate as well.
Wow. Okay. Caregiving is a thankless job. Myth or fact?
Gotta be a myth, right? Okay. Sometimes you may feel like the person you're giving care to is not grateful, but guaranteed that even though it's a stressful thing to do and sometimes you're overwhelmed, it can be very rewarding as well, right? Because you're taking care of the person that you love, right? You're spending time with them, and it can be, very emotional and fulfilling as well.
Yes. Doc, give us some words of wisdom as it relates to self-care for caregivers.
Yeah, well, we talked about, really recognizing that you don't have to do it all yourself, to get that village, either your friends or family, or checking with your insurance benefits to see what is covered. So don't do it all yourself. And the other thing I would say is don't feel guilty about taking your self-care. If there are things that you used to do, like you said, for use your nails, and you go and you enjoy it, don't feel guilty. If you want to go on that cruise, do it, because when you return, when you come back to that person, you feel better. You can be more present in doing the role, the duties that you have to do.
Love it. Thank you so much, Doc Michelle. You always bring your wisdom and your experience, and we appreciate you. In case you don't know, she is our healthy solution expert. She's impacting lives every day with over 20 years experience as a family physician. And I appreciate you coming on month after month, just sharing with us. Thank you so much.
Thank you for having me.
You're welcome. I will leave you guys with these words of wisdom. Caregiver often calls us to love that we did not know existed. So join me next Monday at 6 p.m. right here on Intellectual Radio. As always, thank you for tuning in to Warriors Talk with author and founder Lady Rochelle, where we are changing lives one warrior at a time.
Thank you for listening to this week's edition of Warriors Talk with Lady Rochelle. To find out more about Warriors Talk, follow at Warriors Talk, the number 1, on all social media outlets, and Warriors Talk with Lady Rochelle on YouTube. Please join us next week and every Monday evening at 6 p.m. Central Standard Time on IntellectualRadio.com for Warriors Talk with Lady Rochelle, where we encourage, educate, and empower you into action.